games are meant to stretch our imaginations, to make us think past the limits of the world that we live in. But sometimes that suspension of disbelief can be stretched a little too thin. While video games are an endless source of metaphysical ideas and abilities, they can push the envelope a little too far sometimes. Something that can be observed in most games, and other media for that fact, is the preservation of the main character, or other special characters. Some characters that we observe make these feats of incredible bravery and longevity that we marvel at, and others just kind of leave us sitting there, shaking our heads. This list is dedicated to those characters that have pushed the envelope of life a little too far, and it is just unrealistic that they have survived to this point. This list is not limited to just the main character of a game, but really anybody that just should not have survived whatever was thrown at them. Also, characters that are immortal per se are kind of exempt from this list because, well, the whole immortal thing kind of screws with the integrity of this list. So with that being said, this is the top 10 video game characters that I think should be dead.
Everybody here is just as dead as you. That's why we call it the land of the dead. Are you ready?
The idea of an action-adventure game is to experience the world in a new way, to traverse the land and find its secrets. With this comes danger because, well...
Damn, nature! You scary!
Sadly, I can't include Link from The Legend of Zelda on this list because while a small child fighting zombies is near improbable, he has the assistance of magic on his side. So our 10th place spot goes to Lara Croft because Nathan Drake is too damn handsome to die. Lara Croft has been known by many generations as the Tomb Raider, always risking her life for booty. The most brutal experience that she has endured, one that should have ended in her death, can be seen in her 2013 game Tomb Raider. Original as fuck. Within the first couple scenes of the game, she falls on rebar, which impales her, and then she treks through the jungle of an environment that I doubt is anywhere near sterile. The realistic scenario of this is that Lara gets out of this with a lot of wounds and dies of a staph infection or some parasite. Also, this bitch has fought raptors. No, you do not survive raptors. Samuel L. Jackson tried that in Jurassic Park and it did not work out well. Sorry, Lara, but you're dead. Okay, I want to preface this entry by saying that I may be the only person in the world who has actually played this game. But even still, I had to add this onto the list. Nerf N-Strike Elite is actually not too bad of a licensed game. However, it features a cast entirely of kids firing, you guessed it, Nerf guns. It's all pretty kiddie until, well, the idea of nuclear holocaust is injected into the story. This takes our main characters on an adventure to said nuclear holocaust rocket in which they promptly get in, destroy, and save the day. However, the way that they destroy it is really what should end them up dead. You see, they destroy it by flying it into the sky and manually steering away from its guided path. Here's the problem. These are kids who literally base their knowledge of flying this rocket off of a video game. I mean, I play Street Fighter, but that doesn't mean I'm just gonna walk up to a random streetwalker and shoryuken them. So then why the hell would you try to fly a rocket based off of your knowledge of a video game?
I have a feeling we're gonna be a little late for dinner.
You're dead. The world of mafia and hired killers is a dangerous one. You never know who may be your enemy or friend, or who is about to die next, but you always know that you have to be on your toes, and I would say the character of Niko Bellic isn't always on his toes. Niko is an interesting case. He sounds Russian, so you'd imagine he's a badass, but he's actually from Yugoslavia, which is basically the bitch version of Russia. Niko is a fake Russian thrown into the danger of mob crime in the New York area while having to deal with the incessant bowling requests from his cousin Roman.
Want to go bowling?
Which would very likely end him in a bloody, mangled mess. Sorry, Niko, you may sound Russian, but there's no way you survive in the real world. I mean, after all, how many people do you know that have survived a swing set attack? You know those games that you played as a kid where you kinda had to suspend your disbelief? Yeah, Pokemon is definitely one of those games. I mean, in a world filled with mutated viruses, godlike dragons, and mattresses, there is little chance of realism. However, you have to remember the main characters are still human beings, and they can die just like any normal human can. So then why the hell do all of these mobs and criminal organizations let themselves be beaten by 10-year-olds? An organization like Team Rocket, whose goal it is to make money and capture the ultimate life form, have obviously spent a lot of time planning to accomplish these things. So with all this planning and manpower that has been put into trying to accomplish this goal, they still let themselves get beaten by a kid. I mean, they could get rid of basically all of their problems with a few guns, but they aren't even the worst offenders. Team Galactic from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, whose plan it is to literally destroy the universe, let a kid beat them. If you plan to destroy the universe, then plenty of people are gonna die. So why the hell don't you just kill the little punk trying to stop you? I'm sorry, but if you can't find a way to get rid of the stupid little kid messing with your plans, then they probably weren't that great to begin with. Icons of gaming have a very special longevity to them. They can't really die because then their companies wouldn't have a representative. But seriously, Mario should be dead. Mario is the most recognized character in gaming history, so obviously killing him would be like killing off Mickey Mouse. But whenever you're a character that takes near fatal damage from a mushroom or chestnut, I don't know, this fan base can never figure out what they are, then you know you're pretty weak. To start off, Mario isn't in that great of shape. I mean, he's not as bad as Wario, but he's no Nathan Drake. It is improbable that Mario has been through all of these daring adventures and has escaped unscathed. I mean, he's fought dragons, giant sentient bullets, and roaming those sewers all the time cannot be good for your immune system. Most characters on this list have taken one hell of a beating from time to time, but Mario can't really do that. I mean, this dude gets killed by a turtle. Who the hell gets killed by a turtle? Mario might be an icon that transcends generations, but sorry, in real life, Princess Peach, you're screwed, because that is one dead plumber. A recurring thing with protagonists in video games is that they can normally fill their bodies with whatever they want and it has little effect. This has never been truer than with the character of Max Payne. Max is what the shooter world likes to call a bullet sponge. In layman's terms, this man's body is made up of more bullets than it is skin. Throughout his many missions, he has been riddled with more bullets than Tupac. Oh damn, too soon. Also, not to mention that Max's blood alcohol content must be around 12, because he never stops drinking. Of course they need to give the protagonist a Hamartia or a Vice to make the story more complicated, but seriously, sometimes you can take it too far. Sorry Max, but in the real world you'd be screwed by that alcohol, even more than how that movie adaptation screwed you. You know what would be really boring? Having real-world responsibilities in a video game. Like paying taxes. Fuck, there's probably a simulation game for that. But something that no one really cares about in video games seems to be hygiene. With the exception of games like Metal Gear Solid, games never focus on the bacterial and hygienic factors of life. Well, you know what hygiene is really a problem with? Zombies. Because they're dead. Yes, this entry on the list goes to zombie game characters. Not one in particular, just kind of all the characters in general. I mean, think about it. Zombies are these horrible, rotting creatures, and I have serious doubts that they can work showers or toothbrushes. So when you live in a world where you have walking septic tanks trying to kill you, it would probably be a top priority to keep yourself clean. However, this is a problem when most zombie games are set in some type of apocalypse with little water or hygienic products. So it's really a toss-up on how these characters die. It's either by a zombie attack, or because they smell like shit. There have been many protagonists throughout the history of gaming that many have wanted dead, because, well, they didn't like them. Raiden is one of those select few. After being subjected to a beating from Metal Gear Solid's fanbase and its creator, like, seriously, you expect this man to maintain an ounce of dignity after making him do naked cartwheels? Raiden has definitely seen his fair share of beatdowns. However, it's nothing compared to what he endured in Metal Gear Rising's storyline, especially in his first fight against Jetstream Sam. I mean, first of all, he gets his eye cut open, so his depth perception is just shot. I mean, that won't kill you, but still, it sucks. Also, you have to remember the surplus of blood that is located in a human's head, meaning that he's already losing a lot of it. Then he proceeds to get his entire arm cut off, which, as you would expect, sends blood shooting out of his body. By now, Raiden has lost an incredible amount of blood and is rapidly losing more. Now, it is necessary to remember that the average human male can lose around 40% of their total blood before death is imminent, which is described as a class 4 hemorrhage. The human body holds around 5 liters of blood, so 40% is around 2.24 liters. If the amount of blood loss in this case isn't enough to kill Raiden, then maybe his comrades firing high-caliber, extremely inaccurate rounds at him is. I mean, I know they're firing at Sam, but at that distance they're at, while both parties are moving in varying directions, would likely result in someone getting hit, and that most likely would be Raiden. And if none of the bullets kill him, then we still have the problem of bleeding out. And the fact is that he's on a train that is still moving, with no helicopter in the immediate observable area. Therefore, they would have to catch up to the train, wait for it to stop, and then rush Raiden to a hospital. I understand that he may have some cybernetic enhancements, however, he seems to get most of them after this incident. But even then, that is too much time and blood for Raiden to have survived. Maybe it was a good thing. I mean, he got less annoying after he got chopped up anyways. Metal Gear Solid has always been a fairly realistic game. Well, until Hideo Kojima went batshit insane. Yes, it's true, Metal Gear Solid can get wacky at times, but for the most part, it stays true to its stealthy, realistic roots. With features such as requiring medical attention to wounds all the way to a hunger mechanic, Metal Gear Solid tries very hard to maintain a sense of realism from its audience, which makes it all the more difficult to believe that Snake could live through all of that. In a world filled with nanomachines and different life-altering mechanics, it could be perceivable that Snake could live through all of it. But you also have to remember that the same technology is being used against him. Also, before you say anything about Raiden and Snake being from the same franchise and therefore both of them can't be on this list, I was using Raiden from Metal Gear Rising, which is a spin-off of Metal Gear Solid, so ha! With Snake being a man who has almost as much of a claim of being to hell and back as Dante from the Divine Comedy, it's complicated to explain how he's still going today. I mean, the man crawled through a microwave tunnel. Have you seen what microwaves do to marshmallows? Imagine that being your head. So throughout this list, I've been naming a single or couple characters that I believe should have met their end in their respective games. However, the number one spot on this list is reserved for a larger quantity of characters. The number one character in video games that should be dead is none other than the entire population of the Modern Warfare series. In a series that is based around war and killing, it's understandable that there would be a lot of death. However, a lot of death that should have happened in the series is not shown. Within the 3 games of the series, there are 3 incredibly pertinent events that occur. In COD 4, the nuclear explosion is the first event, which ravages the Middle East. In MW2, no Russian is the second, which instills fear in Russian populace and sets forward the events of the subsequent game. And finally, the most important event in this entire series, the gas truck explosions in MW3, which not only occurred in Paris, but also London, Prague, Madrid, and many other European cities. Included in these events is the destruction of cities such as New York and Washington, D.C. in America, and other major cities in Europe as a result of the war there. With all of that information, we can deduce that the populations of each of these continents have been repressed into seclusion, especially those of Europe. Now, it is very important to remember that what occurred in MW3 were chemical attacks. While it being stated that only 35,000 of over 2 million civilians in Paris were killed, you still have to remember the lasting effects of a chemical attack. Anyone who wasn't killed by the chemicals would then be horribly afflicted with whatever chemical were used, and as they looked for relief centers, they would spread the chemicals to others. Also, the widespread panic of more attacks would mean that people would begin to loot and attack others out of desperation, which would inevitably plunge the countries into chaos. All of this would inevitably result in the deaths of thousands of more civilians that aren't reported to the player, along with plenty of other soldiers. Not only that, but the countries that were attacked are also the ones who provide the most aid to third world and needy countries, meaning that with them ravaged, these other countries would have little to depend on. If we really look into this collection of games, we can see a series of events unfold that would have devastated the world as we know it today. And to think, there's something out there that's more deadly in this game's fan base. fuck did I put this hat on for?